And we are just sitting here having a cocktail and trying to think about what it is that we want to talk about today because, as Stevie just said, there is an embarrassment of riches of things that are happening every day and unfolding in our world that just seem so ludicrous but appear to be things that are going to happen anyway, whether we want them to or not. It's like, oh my God, didn't you just tell me that the White House press secretary is a devout Catholic?
Yes. There's no end to the embarrassments. No end to the embarrassments. I found out several months ago that 54% of Catholics voted for that person in the White House. Not surprised, but shocked as hell. Shocked as hell. I mean, some of this is going to be very what shall I call it? Very not PC. Well, I really don't give a damn. I don't like PC. Don't like rudeness, but don't like PC. But
I always thought the PC really, in the correct usage of that term, really should mean political courageousness as opposed to correctness. But
yeah.
So what do you think? Why do you think that is? That 57%?
54.
54%.
Don't make it worse than it is. Oh God.
54's bad enough.
Despite
let me preface this.
Preface.
Do you think that those people are good devout Catholics in the way that you would prescribe good devout Catholics? Look at this monster.
That's the door.
For those of you who aren't aware, we've just gotten Kelly and I just got 2 brand new kittens, and one of them is exploring the cat door to outside, which they have not had access to yet. So if we get occasionally interrupted, that will be why. If one of them comes by, we'll show you what they look like. They're so good.
In answer to your question, I will use one example. Won't name names, but one family that I know. I would say yes, they're ostensibly, and I've known them a long, known them longer than anyone in the city. Very devout, very Catholic in the way I would understand Catholic to be, until it comes to voting for this preacher. I could be wrong now. I could be wrong. I'm not a social scientist or a political scientist, although I did major in that for a while. I think most Catholics are conservative, despite the fact that you have preachers like Nancy Pelosi, Durbin, name any Catholic senator, just about, or almost any Catholic rep. Too many crazy ass liberals there. But I think that most Catholics.
Wouldn't Jesus have been liberal? I mean, he'd have been a righty progressive, don't you think?
No, he wouldn't. That's just to say. That's like when who was it? Someone in an interview asked W, "Who is the greatest philosopher?" Jesus. That's like saying, Jesus walks on water better than anybody I know. Jesus isn't in class by himself. I hesitate to compare him to liberals for sure, or even conservatives. Jesus is Jesus. I would just,
Maybe this is something that confuses me, because I know I get into the weeds when we start talking about why it is that people who identify as being Christian or religious, but particularly Christian, usually identify as being conservative. And I really want to know what it is that people mean by that. What do you mean by conservative? What do you mean by liberal? Because, to me, conservative means restrictive. Liberal means the opposite.
free.
Right. So, am I wrong in that?
Well, okay, I'm going to be bad right here. This will be fun. I'll enjoy this.
I love it when you're bad.
I forget which Supreme Court justice, when some decades ago, when the idea of pornography was being brought up before the Supreme Court, and someone asked one of the justices, to define it. He said, "It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it."
Yeah.
Um,
Which was a total cop out and
total cop out. Yeah.
I mean,
total
unhelpful.
Unhelpful.
And did not in any way assist them in their decisions about whether or not pornography is free speech.
But what makes one conservative? What makes one liberal? I like the when you see it. It's strange. I'm not sure that I've ever been asked the question before.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things that we have. I think that we all have very different ideas about it, and I've recently been drilling down with people who use the term woke, which is just a complete big ass burr under my saddle blanket, because for me, I asked them, okay, well, stop, woke. What do you mean by that? For starters, if you're not, a person of color who is discussing, systemic racism, then you really, you're adopting this term to mean something that it didn't originally mean. And almost 100% of the time in drilling down, woke has come to mean, accepting of the trans community or the LGBTQ community. That's what I've been able to discern when people drill down and say what it is that they are opposing in the woke ideology. So I think it's just homophobia to be anti-woke.
Hmm. Well, being a homophobe, not a homophobe, being a homo, being a homo, not a phobe. I don't know. I can't believe that we occasionally we do agree on some things, and this apparently.
We agree on almost everything.
She keeps
Three
saying
things.
she's going to
Three
keep saying
things.
that
I'm
until
going to tell you what they are one of these days.
One of these days, and I can't wait. I'll let you all know, but I can't wait.
Maybe he doesn't have to wait. Maybe I'll tell you in just a minute.
Oh God, I only have half a drink left. I don't know if I can handle that.
I've got a full bar waiting for her.
She does. It's the best bar in town. Clancy's be jealous and whoever else. Okay, losing my train of thought here.
Woke.
Woke. I don't like woke. It. Why? Because it sounds liberal. I know that's like a circular argument. And why do I not like liberals? Because it sounds woke. But I'm not just playing around here. Conservative and liberal. That's a really good question. And again, I know what I mean by conservative, and I know what I mean by liberal. Putting it into words and expressing it coherently, that's something else. It's almost like it's almost like explaining breathing and the air. It's something that is so, for me, just for me, it is something that is so internalized that, and it's not that I don't think about it, but I don't think about explaining it because I don't need to explain it to myself. I know what I think about it. I know what it means, what those words mean to me.
But to communicate it to another person so that when you say I'm conservative, you know that they are on the same page as you, that they have an idea of what that means coming out of your mouth as opposed to somebody else's mouth.
Right.
Because I would dare say that, anybody who wears a red MAGA hat and calls himself conservative, you probably don't overlap a whole lot philosophically or politically with their ideology. I think I'm not wrong about that.
No. Apropos of nothing, but sort of fitting in, that makes me think I was at the gym this morning. I finished workout. I go into take a nice calm shower, and what is in the stall next to me? But someone has brought their phone and they are listening to some dumbass right-wing podcast listing every possible fault that Kamala Harris has or should have. I wanted to walk out of
in the shower.
In the shower, I wanted to walk out, take the rodeo, and throw it in the damn trash. Didn't do that. I you know, no, that's to answer your question. No, MAGA hats and what's under the MAGA hat, maybe. I have basically nothing to do with, you know. So that there's a different. I'm a conservative, but I would not call myself right wing for anything. For any, I'm not right wing.
Okay, so let's narrow this down for my benefit. Okay, so give me something that a social attitude, a social moray that you feel illustrates your conservative viewpoint.
Okay, so get ready, everyone. This is going to be a shocker.
Wait for what comes.
It's going to be a shocker to this wonderful lady here. I'm pretty sure, and I hope I hope I have access to her house after this. One example: I do not believe in transgenderism. Okay. I believe that what you were born with, or who you were born as, male or female, is who you will die. Not to be snide or anything, but no matter the operations, the snipping, the additions, the subtractions, there is no such thing as changing one's gender. That is not to say that I try to be understanding of those who go through this, because I can't believe that anyone would go through what is obviously a very painful process, not only for themselves but for their families. If this wasn't a most important thing in the world to them. So I can't say that I empathize, but I do try to sympathize. But that doesn't mean that I'm willing to accept it as fact. I don't.
Okay, so back to my point then, which is that, one of the common things that I find when I hear people talk about being conservative or anti-woke or right-wing gets right back to the LGBTQ community. And I think that people use the trans drum to beat because it's the most recent part of that subgroup that you're seeing in public now, because it's not something that you really talked about or you saw very often in public. But if you think back in the the 50s, it was illegal to be gay. It was illegal, but people don't feel that way anymore because of courageous people who've come out of the closet and made it clear that no, this is how I was born, like it or leave it. This is how I was born, and that's it. So more people. Excuse me, just a second. Kitten alert! Kitten alert!
Kitten alert! There.
This is Romulus. Isn't he sweet? Say hello, Romulus. Hello.
What a treasure of a kitty he is. And cats are lucky. Cats are lucky enough not to have to choose to be conservative or liberal. They're just cats.
Or gay or straight.
Or gay or straight.
Or any of that stuff. Right. Anyway, quick shout out to the Carly and Chris at the NOLA Kitten Rescue, just up the street, which is where they gave us these wonderful, fabulous little brothers. Anyway, back to it. So now, the Western world, at least, or let's just talk about America. America has largely embraced, for instance, the idea of same-sex marriage. And that's less because there's more of them, because most certainly there is not, but more that the rest of the country has become acquainted with, at least, some people that they now know are gay, right? Same thing is beginning to happen in the trans community. It's a much smaller community, of course. But personally, I've known a number of trans people, including one very, very young person, a a child of a good friend of mine who, from a very, very young age, was openly and continuously and in a very, a very strong attitudinal way displaying the characteristics of the opposite sex. And has, as a young adult now, has become a trans person. I don't know if they've gone through transition, like a physiological transition, but they absolutely identify as the opposite sex now. And so I think that as society begins to become less freaked out about the idea that somebody was born with a certain physiology and, in their mind and in their soul, they belong to the opposite one. I think people are going to become less concerned with what's in somebody else's pants. You know what I mean? It's just, they're just people. They're just people. And, they deserve civil rights like everybody else does. And they have, hopes and dreams and aspirations just like everybody else does. They've just, been burdened at birth with circumstances that we were not. So I think that for me, and I think that you and I could have like a long, good, deep discussion about this, and I hope that we will, like we're starting it today. But just about, for me, I would agree with you that that's a conservative attitude. And again, to me, conservative, and this tracks right along, the conservative is about restrictions. It's about denying. It's about, we belong, but you don't. And that's, I think, a terrible way to be in society. So, I mean, trans people exist. It's immaterial whether you believe that they do or they don't. They do. I mean, they just do. It's a big old diverse world.
But see, it's immaterial to some people, but to some of us, it's quite material.
So why?
Because I believe that, I guess, Catholics don't like to be called literalists, or at least this one doesn't. But to be a literalist for just a moment, it says quite clearly, God made him male, made him female. He didn't have a hard time choosing it, making up his mind. One thing I have to say, in the poor Bible has such a bad rep, and it's getting worse and worse rep for the way that it's used today and has been used for at least 500 years. The difference between Catholics and, well, one difference I think between Catholics and Protestants in the Bible is that our church teaches that one should read the Bible as a whole. Picking phrases and chapters and verses here and there usually does much more harm than good. It needs to be read and understood as a whole, both the Old and the New Testaments. So that's why I'm not a literalist. And Catholics, by and large, we are not our own interpreters of the Bible. I don't interpret it. The church interprets it. I accept or do not accept what the church teaches. But if I do, then I do. And it's something you said earlier. I'm trying to remember and trying to think if I really how I really want to respond. A lot of people, and to some extent rightly so, say, oh, the church, especially the Catholic Church, is too damn concerned with sex. Get out of the bedroom. Yes.
I might agree with that.
Yeah, might.
I don't know, man. I'm a whole lot less concerned with what's going on in somebody's bedroom or in somebody else's pants. I mean, I'm fully occupied with my own.
We should be with our, yeah.
And we should all be
I'm
occupied with our
I'm
own.
not going to sit here and argue that. But that's why, again, I'll go back to, people will quote certain parts of scripture to buttress their point about this, that, and the other. That's why I go back to the Bible needs to be read as a whole. And the Bible is not, I think a lot of people think, well, gosh, it's easily read and understood. You read it, that's what it says. You either believe it or you don't. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's not a Marvel comic book. It's not even a great thriller by Cussler or whoever. It's some parts of it are very, very hard to take, especially Old Testament, and some parts of the New Testament are hard to take. But anyway, not to get into the biblical weeds too much. This is my homework. This is my homework, I guess. What the hell is the difference between a damn conservative and a damn liberal? That's my homework.
It's
And
well,
again,
I think that this is maybe good homework for everybody. I mean, if I think about it, we're back. We had kitten spillage. This is Remus. Say hello, Remus.
Remus started out as, we might have thought, an introvert, and boy, has he changed in a couple of weeks.
Completely different. Yes. Anyway, right back at it. Sorry about that. So, where were we? We were talking about, just about trying to get past the, the little quick clips and whatever, in terms of speech and, clickable, all that nonsense. Anyway, the truth is that if you really dig down and talk to somebody, without raising your voice, without making accusations, without calling names or anything like that, but to just like, why do you think that? What is it, that makes you feel that way? And well, what evidence do you have to support that? And well, what about this? Have you thought about this? You really, really dig down. And these are the kinds of conversations that I think that when you and I first started talking, that we were thinking about. These are kinds of conversations a lot of people should be having, the important things, trying to, to talk about things that are significant and really matter, not just to today, but to humanity and the world and all sorts of stuff. Hence the philosophical work, I think, right?
Right.
But back to my point about conservatives and liberals, give me something that doesn't have to do with the LGBTQ community that you feel illustrates your conservative viewpoint of the world.
Okay. I do not believe in the concept of the autonomous self. I am not my own boss. I am not the master of my life. No way, shape, or form. I remember. I don't remember if I've made the statement that I'm a former priest. I think I have it, and just dropping it again, can't remember. But preaching a homily many years ago, and I remember on Sunday morning, most of the commercials, or a lot of them, have to do with insurance companies. Own your future. Grab what's yours. Help us make you the master of your life, of your future. What a bunch! What a crock! What a crock! What a crock! You watch this. You're convinced I am the master of my life. You walk outside and somebody shoots you dead. He was the master of your life, not you. Certainly not the damn insurance company. I don't believe if I am not the master, if I am not if I don't believe in the autonomy of myself, then I have to. I don't have to, but then for me, God is the master. This, of course, opens up a billion cans of worms. Looking at it from an Islamic point of view, from a Christian point of view, from Buddhist point of view, there's all kinds of questions. But the bottom line is, I don't believe that we are our own masters. I simply don't.
So how, I'm just relating back to a couple of months ago, we talked about free will. Oh, just last month we talked about free will. And it seemed to me that you were pretty staunchly making the argument that yes, we do have free will. And this is something that, as I think that we came to a conclusion at the end, yeah, we have free will, but it's not worth shit.
Right? Yes, yes.
It's not worth shit.
Especially these days.
Right. So that tracks. But again, I'm not sure how that would necessarily be different than a liberal's attitude about such things as well. Like, as we talked, you could have your free will to do this, to do that. Like, say you're a woman in the 1900s and you decide, well, I'm going to like do whatever I can to go to college and, try to, to not succumb to all of the restrictions that there are on women in society, but eventually there's a brick wall that you come up against that has nothing to do with you and you can't really affect change on it, and that's just it. That doesn't necessarily mean that's not something that's liberal or conservative, really,
Right.
to believe that, I think. So, not conservative, right? Or it's not illustrative specifically of being conservative, because a liberal could have that point of view as well. And I think that I have that point of view too.
I'd be willing to bet that if one took a poll, that those who believe that would be overwhelmingly liberal, and those who said no to it would be overwhelmingly conservative. That's just my thought.
So by it meaning that
Does one is each one of us autonomous, basically? Take a poll and 1,000 or however many numbers.
more conservatives would say people are not autonomous, and more liberals
I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, that may be. That's possible. Interesting. That could be.
That's one example of something that does not is not in the realm of just LGBTQ, whatever.
I mean, I will certainly agree that I've heard far more people who would identify as being conservative say things like, oh well, it's God's will. You're pretty much never going to hear a liberal person say that.
Probably not.
Right. Okay, so that tracks. That's good. That makes some sense.
But see, even there, it kills me when you see a news program and someone, a tornado has just gone through town, and they're interviewing this one person, and nice, ordinary person on things, usually a woman, I think, but then too, they'll interview, how did you survive this? Whatever. It was by the grace of God, So does that mean that the 17 people who died were by the grace of God? God's grace wanted them to die. See, I I'm not so sure God is in the storm. I'm not so sure that God dictated, well, that's one that's going to live, but these two people over here are going to die. No, I cringe when I hear that, and I understand. I mean, especially in the moment when you have just gone through this horrible experience, and that some people are dead, maybe people maybe relatives, and so if you're a religious Christian, let's say, that's sort of going to naturally seep out, but I still cringe when I hear it.
I do too. So that's one for the liberals.
Not that we're keeping score. God knows. God knows.
Keeping score.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and so there's that, and and maybe I could just simply add in, a sense of religiosity in general. And this is such a curiosity to me as to why, people who identify themselves as being deeply Christian also consider themselves to be really conservative, and like modern day conservative, meaning that they're anti this, they're anti that, they're anti a whole bunch of different things. They don't want kids to read these books, or they don't want anybody to read these books. They don't want there to be rainbow flags. They don't want people to express themselves if it's something that they don't agree with. It's just, to me, that's just such cognitive dissonance. I have such a hard time understanding it. I really, really do.
I understand. I understand. I think your confusion there, or not understanding it. I agree. It's not. It's if it were simply taken care of, the argument, then we probably wouldn't be having this discussion, and there wouldn't be maybe a government shutdown or whatever. These things are not only are they complex, but on both sides, liberal, conservative, some people hold these things, I mean, tightly, very tightly. And while I, again, do not put myself in the radical right camp, the things that I hold on to and believe, I hold on tightly. I can't remember where it is now. There's one place in the gospel and one place in one of Paul's letters where Paul says, and this is butchering it to a point, Paul says, always be ready to explain the source of your hope, but do it gently. It's possible to be a very devout Christian without alienating everybody else on the block. It's possible to do that. I think the people that don't find it so easy to do it gently, well, that's where the problems come in.
It does seem like Christianity, as it is in the media, has lost a sense of gentleness. It does seem to me that it's, much more wielded like a cudgel against
And then
everybody who
there's
is identified as
Christianity
not.
here in the U.S. and there's Christianity in Africa.
Mm.
Christianity in Africa, which is growing phenomenally, and the Catholic Church is growing phenomenally there, is so radically different, and it's very conservative. It's radically different than Christianity in this country, except in countries like Nigeria, where the Muslim fanatics are killing as many Christians as they can. In the other countries where it's relatively peaceful and whatever, Christianity is a happy religion. It's happy. It ain't putting many people in hell. It's just not. This country is just obsessed with. Christians here are too many obsessed with putting people in hell, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm going to sound like no offense to all you Baptists out there. I'm going to sound like a Baptist preacher before this is over, God help me. But in 1 Timothy, I think it is, Paul says, it is God's will that all be saved. Not to go to hell. God doesn't want a damn person in hell. He wants everyone to be saved. Why do Christians make it sound like this old man with a beard is coming and he is pissed and he is going to get your ass? Yeah, I just don't understand that. I've never understood fire and brimstone preaching. I never heard any of it as a kid. I'm not saying that it was never said in some Catholic churches it might have been, but I never heard it in all my life as going to church in catechism. I never once heard it. Never once. Never once. Never once.
Well, I never heard it at all because I didn't involve myself in any of that. My family wasn't religious, so there's that, which is pretty cool. Well, or not cool. I mean, I don't really have I truthfully don't have a really big opinion of it. You know, to me, to each his own. And the part that the part that I find objectionable is the exclusionary nature of religion and conservatism, both. They're exclusive clubs. You're either in them or you're not in them. And if you're in them, great. If you're not in them, then you are less than those who are in them. So to me, it's exactly the opposite of we're all created equal, you know?
And again, it's against go back to Timothy. It's against what Jesus he didn't exclude anyone. Take the Pharisees. He was honest and said that they were probably going to hell. Basically, because their interpretation of the Hebrew Bible was wrong. And the cats are at it. Wow, yes.
Kittens.
They're making more noise than we are. That is so cool.
Actually, it's just ironically, they're trying to chew up a Canadian flag that's sitting in the corner.
That's right, they are. Oh my God, they are.
You little bastards, get back here. Don't disrespect my flag. They're so adorable.
But Christianity, I would say, is and should be inclusive. Now, that again, that's an very easy thing to say with all kinds of ramifications because, and I'm not going to sit here and get into the weeds, these weeds either. But, and it's not a cop out, but, weeds for another day, Inclusion doesn't mean, it's like saying, okay, we should be inclusive. Well, I'm going to not say what I was going to say because that would really be tacky. Okay.
Don't say it. Say it.
No.
Be politically courageous.
Okay, will do. It's like saying, well, I want society to be inclusive, and that includes, drug dealers, and that includes drug dealers who are dealing drugs and killing people's kids and whatever. That includes, businessmen who accumulate $500 billion. How did they do that? I don't think many liberals would say, well, yeah, that's okay. But we want those kind of people, in our group too. Inclusion is, oh God, here we go. Such a liberal word.
Can I just frame it?
Please frame it.
Okay, because inclusion is just an acknowledgement that they exist. It's different than embracing. Like I'm not saying yes, they're part of the party. Give them a seat at the table. It's just simply acknowledging. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, they exist. We know that they're there. And if they're problematic, if they create difficulties for other people, it's a problem that needs to be solved, not a person that needs to be eliminated.
Okay, good
is
point.
The difference.
Very good point.
So
very good point.
Yeah, so that's the difference, I think, between liberal and conservative. In my mind, a conservative would say these people are a problem, and therefore we need to, create laws that restrict them. We need to do what we can to deny their existence. We need to make it illegal for them to whatever it is. Whereas that's not, it's not useful. I mean, they're going to be there. They are there. There's going to be people who will do crime. There are criminals in amongst us. And there always will be, and there always have been. And it's the history and the nature of humanity that there are people for whom antisocial behavior is just what they're going to do. It's, it's undeniable, and I think it's unavoidable. But if society can find ways of making that less harmful to society, I think that those are worthwhile pursuits. And that's a liberal standpoint. Whereas I think, and I mean, I'm trying to describe what I think of as being conservative. A conservative would say, yeah, you know what, but we don't want them, and we need to kill them, or we need to throw them in jail, or we need to, do whatever we can to shove them so far into the darkness and, the periphery that we hope that they just go away because we starve them out.
Gosh, makes me sound like a real shit being a conservative.
Well, that's why I don't think you're a conservative, because I know you don't feel that way.
I don't.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, those are the differences. But I continue to seek out vision and wisdom about the conservative mind and the conservative attitude towards the world. And we haven't even started talking about the conservative attitude towards women. That's going to be a whole big thing, and that's one where I might get a little excited.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm going to say something and then maybe just drop it, because I don't know that I want to get in the weeds on this either. But part of me thinks that conservatives have a much more realistic view of life and nature and human nature than liberals. Drop it. Right there. Just going to drop that. That's
yeah, I vehemently disagree. I think it's exactly the opposite. Yeah, I think it's exactly the opposite.
And
anyway,
that could be another whole program, folks. Another
it could
whole
absolutely
program.
be.
Wow.
Anyway, if you have ideas about what are the true nature of conservative thought and liberal thought and how it is that they differ, please comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And drop in if you want to come on in and give us your opinion on camera one of these days. Then just let us know. And actually, you can send us email now too at makingthepoint504@gmail.com. And we hope to see you one day at actually October the 20th is our next meeting in Making the Point. And I believe that our discussion topic is going to be, are all lives equal? That's a conservative liberal thing.
So
yeah, teeter-totter there.
So all you conservatives out there, invite a liberal to lunch or to dinner, and liberals do the same.
Do the same. Yeah.
Do at least once.
Yeah, and if you are conservative, because I'm just going to say, I think the majority of the current attendees of the group are of a more liberal mindset. If you are a conservative person, or you identify yourself as a conservative person, please
come sit by me.
Come sit by me.
I get lonesome.
Nice.
I get lonesome down at that end of the table. I really do.
And we don't sit on opposite ends of the table for any reason other than coverage.
Right.
That's the only reason.
Right.
But yeah, please come and join us, and we would love to hear what you have to say about things too.
And I can't remember if I said this before, but the only rules we have are civility, confidentiality, and let's have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. Nothing else. Just those three little bitty rules. That's it.
And that's it. And that's us making the point. Talk to you very soon.
Bye-bye.